So let's journey back in time to the final years of the 19th century. A story of almost unimaginable evil was sweeping across France and really the entire world. It was a tale filled with secret societies, devil worship, and a massive global conspiracy. But the most shocking part of it all wasn't the lurid details. It was that none of it, not one bit, was true. This is the story of the great Masonic hoax, and it's nothing short of a masterclass in how to pull off mass deception.
I mean, just listen to that. That's just one of countless truly bizarre claims that people all across Europe were reading, and not just reading, but passionately believing. They were being told that holy objects were being desecrated, that demonic forces were being summoned for dark rituals. Now, to us, it sounds like pure fantasy, right? But for millions of people at the time, this was like breaking news from the front lines of a very, very real spiritual war.
You have to understand. On the surface, Freemasonry presented itself as this fraternity of enlightenment, of reason, of charity. Its public image was all about benevolence and good works. But a series of absolutely explosive publications were about to take that image and twist it into something completely unrecognizable. They tapped into the deepest fears of a society that was caught between tradition and modernity, a society terrified by the rise of secularism and all the social upheaval that came with it.
So how did this all start? Well, this mass panic, this whole affair, began with a single, incredibly dramatic confession from someone who claimed to have seen all the darkness from the inside.
Okay, so let's meet Diana Vaughan. Or maybe I should say, let's meet the idea of her. She was introduced to the public through her memoirs as this repentant woman who had bravely fled a secret, devil-worshipping inner circle of Freemasonry. This invented group was even given a name, Palladianism. And Diana, well, she was positioned as the star witness in a global case against this ancient brotherhood.
And the stories she told, they were absolutely sensational. We're talking detailed accounts of satanic magic, murder, and demons like Lucifer and Asmodees literally appearing in Masonic lodges. And what was the supposed goal of all this? Nothing less than installing a Masonic Antichrist to achieve total world domination. For a public that was steeped in religious tradition, these tales weren't just shocking, they were a terrifying confirmation of their absolute worst fears about secret societies.
The stories were wild, the details were graphic, and the public was completely captivated. But as the tale grew more and more fantastical, a few brave skeptics started to ask some very pointed questions.
A few skeptical voices slowly started to rise above the noise. Researchers and journalists began to look a lot closer at Diana Vaughan's fantastic claims, and they started noticing, inconsistencies. The grand narrative was beginning to fray at the edges.
The first big thread they pulled to unravel this whole thing wasn't found in some secret temple, but in a library. The key to cracking the whole mystery wide open was a classic literary crime: good old-fashioned plagiarism.
A researcher by the name of A.E. Waite made a truly crucial discovery. He found that these supposedly secret and modern Palladian rituals, they weren't new at all. He realized they were copied, sometimes word for word, from well-known books on black magic from centuries before. The big secret had been hiding in plain sight the entire time.
But there was another even more practical problem with the story. This one didn't require any fancy literary analysis, just a little bit of common sense.
White pointed out the sheer logistical impossibility of it all. I mean, think about it. How could a massive secret society with thousands of members build and operate these gigantic underground temples right beneath the streets of a major city like Paris without anyone, not the police, not the public, not a single construction worker, ever noticing a thing? It just defied all logic.
So with the story crumbling under all this scrutiny, public pressure began to mount. People didn't just want to read Diana Vaughan's stories anymore, they wanted to see her. They wanted to meet their hero in person.
So for 2 whole years, the frenzy just grew and grew. Finally, a date was set. On April 19, 1897, a huge crowd packed into an auditorium in Paris. The posters all promised that the elusive Diana Vaughan would finally appear in person to tell her story. You can just imagine, the anticipation in that room must have been absolutely electric.
But the person who walked out on stage wasn't Diana Vaughan. It was a man. He stepped right up to the podium, faced the stunned audience, and simply confessed everything. His name was Leo Taxil, and with those few words, he brought the entire fantasy crashing down around them.
The mastermind was a man named Leo Taxil, a notorious French prankster and anti-clerical writer.
He had fabricated every single detail over 12 long years. The Anavan, Palladianism, the demonic rituals, the whole thing was just one giant, elaborate hoax, designed from the very beginning to mock and humiliate his enemies in the Catholic Church.
So the hoax was over. But that leaves us with the much bigger question, doesn't it? Why did so many people, including high-ranking officials in the church, believe it so easily? The answer, it turns out, tells us something really profound about ourselves.
The philosopher Umberto Eco gave us a really powerful way to understand this. He called it inventing the enemy. Eco argued that having an enemy is, in a strange way, essential for societies. It helps us define who we are by showing us who we are not. It gives us an obstacle, an other, to measure our own values against.
And this quote just nails it perfectly. You see, Leo Taxil didn't create the widespread fear of Freemasonry out of thin air. He simply fed a pre-existing hunger for a villain. He provided a clear, monstrous enemy for a society that was grappling with profound social change, and the public eagerly embraced it because on some level, they needed one. And while Taxil's specific hoax was eventually exposed, the template he used, well, it lives on. The fear of secret societies continues in all sorts of different forms, from traditional religious condemnation to political accusations of hidden influence, all the way to the modern, viral conspiracy theories you see spreading across the internet today. The enemy might change its shape, but our need for one seems to remain. So the story of Leo Taxil is much more than just a historical prank. It's a powerful case study in the power of a good story and our collective, deeply human need to define ourselves against another. It really forces us to ask a tough question. More than a century later, in an age of so much misinformation, are we any less susceptible to having our enemies invented for us?